celebrating the power of possibility. Pilot Flying J and Halloran Hilton Hill present Anything is Possible. Today's guest, Jack McElroy, Part 2.
Welcome to Anything is Possible. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill. These are great stories about great people whose lives prove possibility. This is Jack McElroy. This is episode 2 of our conversation. I am having a great time talking to you. Thank you for being here.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
In our last episode, I mentioned how your countenance changed.
Mm-hmm.
I watched you go from editor to dad.
Yeah.
Do you feel that shift?
Well, look, being a newspaper editor and being in the newspaper business is an intense experience, and I feel very lucky to have had the career that I have. I call it play for pay. It's a great job, and I wouldn't have made it any different. But being a parent is a whole nother level of intensity for me, and a greater depth of joy than anything that I think I've found just through career.
Yeah.
And so it's the most important thing in my life.
Yeah. So we talk about work-life balance. That's
Right.
work. This is life.
It is.
And trying to find the balance between the two is the art. So my
Absolutely.
question in our last episode
Yeah.
was, number one, do you journal?
I'm recording my life to some extent, but not on a personal level of insights, and I'd say it may be something that I'll look back in my later days and go, I wish I had.
Yeah. What about, have you thought about writing, because you wanted to write the great American novel, have you thought about writing a novel from the perspective of a dad raising African American kids? Is there a...
Well, I think autobiographical type of novel is something that would take a tremendous emotional commitment. And when I was young and I thought I was going to write the great American novel, I think it was an intellectual concept that I didn't have the life experience to fully appreciate. And maybe I'm kind of approaching another perspective where I go, wow, that would be a really tough job to try to write that story. And perhaps, but that's not, that would not be a light commitment. And as I say, my career got steered into journalism, and I think that was probably for the best. I'm not sure I would have been a good novelist.
Next question. How has raising African American children changed you?
Well, in our last show, we talked about it's hard to tell where being a interracial parent, where the line is between that and being a parent. And so the thing that has changed me the most in my life is being a parent. Okay, it shifts your whole perspective on your role, why you're doing things, the impact, the feeling that you're responsible for other people's lives is a major shift in perspective.
Right.
The-
No, go ahead.
I would say that the racial dimension then comes in because it's one of those decisions that I made as an adult that my children had no role in making that. They were babies. They were put in a situation, and then we all have to live that way. And at that point you begin to say, well, this is something else that in this role as a father I need to I want to live up to what they need, and I find that it's a challenge. And I hope that in the long run, when all is said and done, they'll feel that I gave them what they needed.
Let's take a break. I'd like to piggyback on that thought when we come back. And the question going into the break is this: do you feel like you've lived up to what they need? This is Anything is Possible, because it is. We'll be back.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up.
She saw completely through the race, and it was just amazing to me, because there was nothing we had said about that.
Welcome back to Anything is Possible. So that's a serious question I asked you in the last segment. Do you feel like you've been the father they needed?
Well, I think parents, they do the best they can, and then children become adults and they have to do the best they can. And so I think in any life you look back and you say, there are some things I wish I had done differently, and other things you look back and go, you know what, that was really a good special moment. So I don't feel that I wouldn't change it, Helen. I wouldn't change it. I'm glad that we've had the family that we've had. I'm so glad I have my kids. My kids love me. I love them, and I believe that I did do my best. And I'll keep trying. I'm not done. I'm still a dad.
You know what I was thinking, Jack? You know, in our last segment, I was asking you about, you know, how you were affected by having African American children. And throughout our conversation, I've noticed a couple of things. Other people foist upon you this notion of you being the parent of an African or African American children. And I mentioned this to you before about you being you're very nice, but you're very committed to whatever it is you believe in. And the pushback throughout the conversation has been, these are my kids, these are not my black kids.
Yeah.
And I'm a parent, not a white parent.
Yeah.
Like finding the humanity, right? And maybe that's been what you've been fighting for and fighting through, is a world that wants to put us in these boxes and these classifications that separate us, right? These are my children, Halloran. This is not, no, now you have an interesting story because there's this contrast.
Yeah.
No, love is love.
You know, I had an interesting experience within the past year in that regard. And I was in a doctor's office with my youngest son. He's 23. And he went back and I was still sitting in the office. Well, there was a family, a mother and two little girls who were black, who were also in the office. And the one little girl, and I would say that she was maybe 7 or 8. I forget the context, but she said, spoke to me when he was gone about when your son comes back out. She had no question in her mind that he was my son. And that was simply by seeing us, our age relationship, and our level of interaction, and her seeing it through child's eyes. She saw a parent and a child, an adult child and an adult parent. She saw completely through the race, and it was just amazing to me, because there was nothing we had said about that.
Yeah, and maybe there's a quality of love above a certain threshold that erases race.
I do believe that. I not only believe it, but I hope it for everybody.
Yeah. Let's talk about the newspaper business. Wow. It is the wild, wild west all over again. I was there when they opened the new News Sentinel building.
Yeah.
I was there when they cut the ribbon and these huge printing presses, and it was the building of the future, and it was right on the interstate,
Yeah.
but in the upper right corner it says knoxnews.com.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
almost like this You are in a turbulent business.
Well, it's not just us.
Yeah,
I
us
mean,
too.
TV,
Yeah.
everybody, the media business has been, and beyond the media business, the digital revolution is changing everything, and that's going to keep coming.
Are you scared?
But I'm not scared. No, I mean, look, I've had a great ride. And I'm actually very excited about what's happening now. This has been a cool time. I could have lived out my whole career and not had much change, but over the past 10 years, we produce video. We've launched websites. We did a series for several years. We were recording musicians down at the Blue Plate Special downtown, and so as a newspaper editor, I have about 200 music videos to my credit. And I mean, I think that's cool. And it's, so there's been a world of opportunity of different ways to connect with people, spread news and information, continue to learn. And it's been very exciting.
So there are two words, though, that are going through a sea change. One, news. What is it? When I was taking journalism, we asked the question, what is news, right? And you have all the different factors. The definition of what is news seems like it's changing. The other word is paper, right? Yeah. News, paper, and both of those things are radically different.
Yeah, yeah.
What's news?
It may be a tweet now. It may come as a text alert. It may come as a extensive analysis that you still read in depth. I'm not sure it's changed too much. It's still what people feel like they want to know, they need to know, that has currency, and that they didn't already know. And we have a big computer screen in our newsroom that shows how many people are on the top stories on the website with the headline and the number of people reading it at any given time. It's very interesting to watch when a news story hits and you watch it go up the board, and it's, maybe 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, several hundred people all of a sudden reading that story because it's something they didn't know about. It just happened. So news does maybe have more immediacy than it ever did in the past. But you've been in the radio business. You know about immediacy. You guys always had it on us.
Right.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about paper, because an editor used to have the luxury of a little bit of time.
Right.
A lot of cities had a morning newspaper and an evening newspaper, and you had a full news cycle to pick what you were going to cover, assign writers, block out a paper, figure out the column inches. And the editorial part could be really specific and beefy. And then you had a business model that supported that.
Right.
Right. Now, by the time you get ready to set the paper for the day, there's a whole day and a half worth of news that's already done. So you are in the business of deciding what goes, what doesn't go, allocating the resources, the intellectual capital that you have to cover what needs to be covered.
That's the great challenge, because our resources have shrunk because of the change in the business model, and that's because of the competitive advertising environment. There's never been so many opportunities and choices of people that can place advertising, and we've had to find ways to do digital news, do video, still do print, do social media, and at the same time maybe do it with fewer people. It forces you to make choices about what you can do, what you focus on, and it's taught us to try to decide more of what's really important and what maybe isn't quite as important.
Wow. It's a whole different world, whole different business. I'm talking to Jack McElroy. You're watching Anything is possible. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
Coming up,
For my kids, if they say, you know, Dad gave me what I needed to go out and be myself, then I'll feel successful with that too.
Jack McElroy, thank you for being with us on Anything is Possible. I hope you're enjoying this conversation. I want to go back to the written word as we kind of wrap up here. There was this young lady on Twitter. She was supposed to be, I think she was a stripper or something. I forget her name. Do you remember this story?
No.
Okay, so here's what happens. She writes a story about going to Florida and getting in touch with another stripper, and they were stripping and buying drugs, and then they got caught up in a drug deal in a hotel room, and in a series of tweets, she tells this story, right? And it got all this attention. She got job offers, she got whatever, but it's the same story that would have been in the Sunday whatever of a newspaper. And when I saw that happen, I thought to myself, the written word has never been as popular as it is now. Ever, ever, ever. Yeah. Because the volume of things we read, whether they be text messages or tweets or Instagram comments or whatever, we've never read as much in our lives. It's just fractured. Yeah. Because people post on Facebook and social media. So we're reading more than ever. And if we're reading more than ever, then that means the written word is still connecting with people. Yeah. Today's journalists, though, have to be different. They have to be multidisciplinary. They have to remember storycraft, but the storycraft has to be accessible through multiple platforms. So when you send a journalist out, you probably send them with a video camera now.
They do. Well, we send them with a iPhone, and they've been trained to use those to capture video, shoot pictures, maybe capture audio if that's appropriate. And yes, we do. And we ask them to tweet. We ask them to send us a quick update to post on the website, get some video, come on back, maybe expand the story on the website, then go ahead and write something for print. So it is very demanding.
Are you finding your younger journalists, though, eat that stuff up?
Yeah. Some of the young ones are just absolutely amazing. You know, for them, it's just second nature, and they communicate. Social media is their platform. We now find that about a third of the visits to our website come through links on social media, and about another third come through search. So it's not, you know, the majority of people don't just come straight to the website to see what's going on there. And I think that social media piece is just going to continue to grow.
What have you learned about success? What is success to you, and what have you learned about possibility?
Every day is a new buffet of possibilities, and it's very important. And maybe this ties into success. It's very important to remember that, and to get up in the morning, and instead of, oh, you know, let's go through the routine, it's to look at the day and the possibilities that it holds. And to the extent that you do that, you achieve breakthroughs, ideas, capture achievements that you then look back on, and those add up to success. So I would say the days when you kind of, you know, sleepwalk it, you're not going to look back on too much then.
By that definition, do you feel successful?
Not every day, but as I look back, I feel like I've seized enough moments and remembered enough days, and I've had tremendous opportunity given to me to do that, and I'm very grateful, and I do feel like I'm still a work in progress, but I am successful enough that I'm going to keep trying tomorrow.
When you're done with the race, what do you want this community to say about you? And when you're done with the race, what do you want your kids to say about you?
Well, one thing I believe in a lot is open dialogue and discourse. And as it relates to talking about our shared problems and concerns, our shared decision making, and if the community said that I contributed to that, then I would feel that that was definitely a success, and I hope that that's what I achieve. For my kids, if they say, you know, Dad gave me what I needed to go out and be myself, then I'll feel successful with that too.
Wow, gave me what I needed to go out and be myself. That's strong. Jack McElroy, thanks for being on Anything Is Possible.
Thank you, Halloran, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. That's good stuff.
Thanks, man.